So, JDaddy,
Yo.
I'm happy you're here, man. I'm happy you're here. I'm happy that we're talking like this. Just two
Thanks for having me.
bros. Yeah, of course, dude. It's been why are you the 10th mind of the streamer? Why are you the 10th streamer on here? Why did it take that long? I guess
Um,
I was just too nervous to ask you. I mean, you're just like
no, it wasn't that. There's a lot of valid candidates for me to
it's
be a
true.
streamer.
It's true.
There's a lot of good streamers out there. Um, but I do appreciate being the first double digit. I can always find solace in being the first at something.
Oh, yeah, right. The first double digit because it's 10.
Yep.
Yeah,
10 is a double digit number.
I think so. Um Yeah, so I think it's great. It's been interesting. Like I think I had Laz on in September, and
Mhm.
that went really well, and I really enjoy doing these, but I doubt myself a lot. Like I
With
what
with regards to what?
with regards to being able to live up to a standard. Um, because I set a do you ever feel like people set a bar for you? Like you establish yourself as something. Like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
like
of
say you're
course.
like a world record speedrunner, right?
Yeah.
Or like a speedrunner in general. Like I don't know, you don't have to be a world record speedrunner. But when you play, do you are you like does it make you frustrated or um you feel like you really need to play up to a standard? I don't know. It's kind of a metaphor for what I'm trying to say. Like um I don't know. I feel like I've streamed a lot,
Mhm.
and so when I go live, I feel like I can tell if I'm off or not, or I feel anxious, or like I don't know if you understand where I'm going with this, but
I I kind of think so. I think I know where you're going with this,
do
which is
you
like
do you feel like you have a responsibility to live up to a standard in any given thing after doing it for a certain amount of time? You know what I'm trying to say?
yes. So I do, but not with speedrunning.
Okay.
Um, because there. So, and we might get into this later, but um, when I coached league, a few years back, or even a couple years back, um, I felt that way where I owed my players the best performance I could give them, and I was disappointed in myself when I didn't give that to them or couldn't give that to them.
Mm.
But I think speedrunning is a little bit different because it's a it's a journey of continual improvement as an individual and not as like nobody else is relying on your success,
That's true.
right? So with that in that regard, I would say with speedrunning, yes, like there is some pressure from it, like some inherent pressure of streaming, of like providing good content, of like being consistent at your craft. But as far as like letting that get to me and being like anxious or anything about when I'm playing bad, no, I just get pissed off when I play bad.
I think people have different reactions. I got so mad last night, dude. I had a run. And like I've been feeling a little bit discouraged because my PB is pretty good.
Hmm.
And so I've gotten to a point where it's difficult, really difficult to get a run that's on pace. And I'm sure you're at that kind of point too.
Yeah.
Um, are you? Are you at a point where it's like it feels a little bit that's a different question. But like how often are you green?
Um, I would say I'm green. Well, I mean, it depends when in the run you're
It's
like.
a tough question to ask. But like how often do you have like a like out of the runs that you do in a night, how often do you get to say I'm ahead, this has potential?
I would say it's probably 30 to 40%.
That's
But
okay. That's not bad.
the thing is, I have like on my current PB splits, I have 28 seconds I can save on collapse, which is a ridiculous amount of time. I just never get there because I'm picky about the runs that I do like push to the end of the game because I don't want to transfer like if I have a good collapse, let's just say on any given run, and I threw away 25 seconds on a different split earlier in the run, I don't care about a 3-second PB.
Mm.
It's because it doesn't like as much as I'm like, okay, that's another PB, I more view it as I just took time save that I had at collapse and moved it to a different split in my
Redistributed
splits,
it.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really feel like I accomplished anything. Whereas when you get a really good run that's, you know, hitting on all cylinders, maybe you lose a few seconds on, you know, several splits versus like a big time loss on one split, you can still kind of justify that with like, oh, okay, you know, I misstep here, misaligned there, but it doesn't feel as bad, if that
Right.
makes sense.
What is the angriest that you've ever gotten speedrunning?
Oh,
You said that that's kind
oh,
of the way
okay.
you
I thought you were
react.
gonna say the angriest I've ever been like playing video games.
Oh,
Um,
you can tell. Was it League?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Was it when you were competing?
No, it was actually um. Well, yeah. I guess tech. It wasn't like team related or
It
anything.
wasn't
It was
college.
it was when I was in college, but I was off for summer break,
Mm-hmm.
and I was living in a hotel room at the time because I was on an internship out of state, and um I was playing solo queue one night, and it was not going well. And there was one game where I just like snapped. I I had been losing like a bunch of games in a row, and it was just one of those things where everything was going wrong at the same time, and I got so mad I literally just threw my mouse across the room and broke
Oh
it into
my
like a
god.
bunch of pieces. And I'm the type of person, this is like kind of a destructive behavior, but if I'm losing a lot in a game and I get mad about it, I typically play more.
Oh no.
So I ended up leaving right after I did that, going to Walmart, pissed off, bought a new mouse, and kept playing when I came back. It was bad,
That's so funny.
but yeah, it's with speedrunning, it's like the maddest I've ever been speedrunning. Um, I honestly can't think of a specific instance because uh, like
Blends
for the most
together.
part with speedrunning, like you're relying on your own abilities, and like to a certain extent the game can like mess you up with some things, but at least with Defeat Ganon there's very little RNG over the course of the run, and it's just a lot of execution, you know, bits that you have to get right, you know, over the course of the run to have a good run overall. So I mean, there have been times where I've been upset at like very specific things, but you know, the next day it's like kind of fresh mindset, and I'm not overly worried about it. It might come back later in the day, like if I continue to have problems at a certain area. Um, you know, I may run into, you know, a spot where I'm just like, yeah, I couldn't do this yesterday. I still can't do it today. What the hell? But you know, it is what it is with that regard. Like I don't I try not to get too upset about it because ultimately speedrunning is it's literally just a grind. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again to try to get to a level of perfection that nobody else has before.
Is that what you feel like it's about? Is that what you want? Like, is your goal to be the best at what you're doing?
Yeah, I think that's I mean it depends a little bit, but for me, when I'm competitive at something, I want to be the best at what I'm doing, or I shouldn't say the best at what I'm doing, but the best that I know I can be. So it's a little bit of a delineation there because, like, I know when I'm
Potential.
playing, like, if I'm playing League, like, I played League for 10 years, and there was a certain point, like, 4 or 5 years in, where I hit I hit what was probably my peak at the time in terms of like um, raw mechanical ability reactions, that kind of thing. And it was kind of at that point where I realized I have so much more to go in order to like try to even compete with the guys that are at the top of the ladder, that it's not really realistic for me to get there because I was already putting in a ton of time into the game.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really realistic for me to get there. So I had to kind of recenter the focus on how can I prove to myself that I'm playing at my at my highest level all the time. And that's kind of what I view everything that I'm doing now, because if you're going to be the best at something, you want to be the best at it while being your best. If you're not playing at your best, but you're the best at something, it doesn't feel that great.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way I feel about my low percent time, is like it's a decent time, but it's nothing to brag about, because anybody with a little bit of time on their hands could go and beat it.
You gonna teach me?
So, I'll teach you. It's
What's the difference? So it's dude, but I gotta learn Goma Clip. Although Goma Clip, to be fair, isn't like the
Goma Clip's not
worst.
that hard.
Like
It really isn't.
I've done the trick before.
Yep.
And I know the mechanics of it. I know the frames. It still seems like quite a lot to learn though. Although it is the same concept of the path of breaking, like, doing wrong warp and getting to Ganon and killing Ganon.
Yeah.
With
It's a very similar run to Swordless Defeat Ganon. It's a little bit less similar to just like if you were to do Sword, because of the item restriction and low percent. But yeah, there's literally 3 splits that are different out of like the 10 or 11 that I have on my splits tracker. It's just basically everything inside Deku Tree.
might be good for me. Like I've been kind of loathing learning new stuff, but if I had someone to kind of hold my hand in the beginning and learn something that isn't completely different, like there's
Yeah.
some characteristics, some in terms of the route and the path, it's a little bit familiar. Might be worth a shot. Might be
Yeah,
worth a shot. So I'll have to
it's
consider that.
familiar enough. That's actually why I went to it second. Because I started on Defeat Ganon, and then I was trying to figure out what I wanted to play next, and the first suggestion I got was Ganonless, and I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. But then Habel approached me and was like, yeah, you should try low percent Defeat Ganon. I was like, well, yeah, sure. Like there weren't that many times up on the boards. I was like, I could probably put up a better time than this. On top of the fact that the routes at the time didn't include quick put away,
Right.
so
Mm.
we had minutes of time saved there just by doing the reroute. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then Hal and I have had a battle back and forth, taking
Yeah.
the record from each other, from each other, and it's been a lot of fun, actually. Just learning the route with Habel, and then having the competition between the two of us, to kind of push each other to be that little bit better. It's been really fun. So I'd be happy to teach you if you want to do it. But yeah, it's not a very forgiving route. And it's not very forgiving in that it's easy to kill a run on a mistake, where you like either can't continue or you lose literally minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So, like, how much does a missed Mito? Like, okay, so you're doing Mito skip in that run.
Mido skip, if you miss it, loses like 40 seconds.
All right, it's like missing wrong
But
warp
I mean, if you were
or
to
Gim.
miss Mido skip and do it again, you'd be losing 40 seconds, maybe 45, depending on how many pause buffers you need. Um,
What's the
but the
hardest?
thing is,
What's the hardest thing about Mitoscape? Is it what you're holding on the controller, the position? Because it confuses me when like you're buffering during the swimming process. It's like what I guess there are certain frames you're looking for, but like are you changing your direction on the controller like while you're swimming?
No,
No?
it's once you clip out of bounds, you do a jump slash at a specific frame,
Yeah.
and then from there you just hold left, and you're looking to holding left and targeting, so that you're like swim strafing or whatever,
Right, right.
and then you're looking for a specific frame to let go at Z. Now, if you don't release Z at the right time, you can still save it by doing one of two adjustments if you're either early or late, depending on what you do. Um, but yeah, all it is just that Z timing. The stick thing that um the stick thing that I sometimes reference when I miss the trick is when you're doing the trick, you have to be holding stick up right in the notch. But the problem with these N64 controllers is that they are rather imperfect when it comes to the diagonals.
Hmm.
And by that I mean if you hold upright, you would expect the X and Y coordinate of the stick to match, but they really don't,
Hmm.
which is kind of unfortunate. But the nice thing is that if you push hard enough, you can get both values over 67, which is considered a max input by the game. So as long as you have both of your X and Y values above 67, the initial jump slash to clip out of bounds um, will work, and you'll be in the right spot to do the second jump slash and then swim to the left and
So
get past Midas.
it's probably not terrible to learn with a GameCube controller, right?
Probably not. Yeah, if you have an adapter,
I do.
yeah, you'd probably be fine learning it.
All right. Yeah, I need to watch your run and then
Sure.
we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
Um
there are easier ways to do some of this stuff. Some of the things that we do in Deku Tree, Habel and I, and we even do different, like slightly different routes. Because Habel likes to do the stick break like you guys do in DG, where you just like walk in, turn right, and do like the side hops with the unbuffered side hop to do QPA. Um, so Habel buys nuts, like, or sorry, Habel buys like two additional sticks at the shop, whereas I only buy whatever, it's like three or something. I don't remember offhand anymore, but yeah, it's there's a couple of different ways to do it depending
oh,
on your familiarity with,
I know what you
kind of
mean.
how you want to do the first part of the Deku Tree. They're similar in time. I think one's the one that Habel does is a little bit slower, but it's not by any significantly large amount of time.
You want to know what's really funny is the first thing I thought about was why wouldn't you just get additional sticks in the Baba corridor? Why wouldn't you just kill some Deku Babas? Like, oh
Right,
yeah, that's
yeah.
right. You can't
You
do that.
can do it. You can do it. I
Oh yeah,
when we
wait.
were
Couldn't you
first
get ISG
routing, what's that?
with? Couldn't you get ISG with stick and kill them? Or
No. So, because you do a jump slash when you skip Mito, you've stored stick jump slash damage on your crouch stab, which means when you do ISG, you can't actually kill the spinning Babas.
oh,
So
interesting,
what you have to do is you have to get QPA in that corridor, and then break the stick, and then kill them with the broken stick ISG,
interesting.
which you can do it, but it's like it loses like 12 seconds. It's pretty slow. So
Um, so I want to know when. First of all, let's even go like further back than that. So I've talked about this a lot, and I've talked a lot about Ocarina of Time as a game and what it means to me and how I started playing it as a little kid. And, like I got it at the GameCube release, played it, with my dad, my brother on a CRT in my dad's room, and like just have so many memories, And I've played this game so consistently, like nearly every day for, you know, almost 20 years. So it's funny. So like Ocarina of Time has a very significant meaning to me. What what got you into the game? Like why Ocarina of Time? Why are you speedrunning it? Like I honestly don't know that about you. So
yeah,
um yeah, go for it.
um, yeah. So I guess it started. We had, and I don't know what age I was at the time. Um, it was Christmas one year. It had to have been when I was maybe first or second grade, is my guess. So I would have been 6 or 7.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that would put me right around where the N64 wasn't new, but it was still like the newest console that
Yeah.
Nintendo had. Because I was born in '93. So we got a console. My parents got my brother and I a console for Christmas, and it was the first game console we had at the time. I don't recall asking for it or anything like that. Um, and it came with the games we got with it were um, Super Mario 64. We got F1 World Grand Prix and All Star Baseball 2000. Those were the
Let's
three
go.
those were the three games that we got with the console, and I think the Super Mario 64 game came with the console when they bought it, and then they got the two other games. Um, but the next game that we got, which was like I don't remember if it was like for birthday or for Christmas, was OOT, and I just remember plugging that game in for the first time and just that was like the first time I ever got like lost in a video game where it was just like
What am I
I don't
doing?
know how much time passed, but I mean, I was like, 7 or 8 at the time, probably. So it was like I didn't have a good semblance of time, regardless. But that was the first time where it was just like, what is this like alternate universe that has my complete and full attention? I'm like kind of transported into this other world that's just like mysterious, and you get to explore, and there's all these like cool things happening that you don't see in the real world.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I specifically remember back in the day we had my dad put in a hard you got a half hour to play video games every day.
Okay,
So
gotcha. Yeah.
we'd go up, we'd be like, Dad, can we play video games? Be like, yep, and go go to the stove, set half an hour on the timer, and get to town. So we'd try to cheese it a little bit by like turning on the console and stuff beforehand, and
Yeah.
like getting the game booted up. Um, and I remember um, I was in Sacred Forest Meadow, first time seeing the moblins with the spears in there, and that's like my most vivid memory from playing OT is
Oh yeah.
going in that maze and being like, oh my god, these guys are huge. They're just gonna kill me. Like I saw those guys and I like left. I like left Sacred Forest Meadow because I was like, I'm not fighting these guys. I'm
Screw
out of
that.
here.
Yeah.
And then I eventually figured out like I actually need to go to like proceed. Um, and yeah, I just remember like clearing through that maze and I got like halfway through and my timer ran out. And I was like, Dad, I can't I can't stop right now. He's like, nope, you gotta get off. And of course my brother jumped on because he got to play his half hour afterwards.
Oh.
And we weren't even allowed to watch each other at the time. It was really stupid. So it was like, I had to go leave. And my brother ended up like finishing that little area. But I just remember that little aspect of it, and that was like kind of my introduction, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, to OT. But I always thought that the game was, um, after having played through it, it was by far my favorite game. I liked Super Mario 64 as well, and obviously a bunch of the other, Nintendo classics, Mario Kart and whatnot. Um, but yeah, OT, it was so different from the other games that I played first, like obviously like racing, baseball, like I was familiar with those things
Mm-hmm.
already, but OT was a completely different experience. Just from an overall adventure perspective, and it just kind of it puts you in the shoes of somebody else, which I hadn't really experienced before. So
I
that was
think
my introduction to
I think
OT.
I think that's kind of what drew me to the game too, because it's like when you get to be a hero, it really teaches you like um I think that the Triforce is such a powerful image, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, courage, wisdom, and power that like encompasses the ultimate force in the universe. Um, and I just think I still geek out over it. I still think it's so cool. You know, the idea of there being a lot of people say that Ocarina of Time is the story isn't that great and like MM is way better. It's bullshit. You know,
I
because
agree.
like I really and like it is more simple than MM, but like I really like things that hit at the very core principles of humanity.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
courage, courage, wisdom, power. You know, heroism, fear, and darkness, and light, and there are things like that, like Harry Potter, that really hit on like heroism and darkness and power and courage. And I really like those things. And for me, they don't have to be. I think Ocarina of Time is perfect. It's my favorite game. I wouldn't change anything about it. But like, yeah, what I guess what I was gonna say is I thought it was so cool, like how different people had a different part of the Triforce, and Ganon was trying, or Ganondorf was trying to get all three pieces. I don't know, like some people think that like the Ocarina of Time is sort of not complex enough, and how it's sort of like going through the dungeons, like doing three child dungeons and five. But then there's the whole, and I could talk forever about this. There's the whole you know, like I'm just looking at chat and Lake says he feels called out because we all know that Lake hates OOT. Because I've had this discussion with Lake, and this is actually it's like I am taking part of this from that conversation. Um, it's enough for me. Like I don't know, man. Like I could tell from what you were saying is that at that time when we were first playing this game, there was nothing like it.
Mhm.
There's nothing like it, you
Right.
know? And it also has that way of sucking you in, like you were talking about. Um,
I think when you
it's, yeah.
I think when you try to compare it in retrospect to Majora's Mask, I think Majora's Mask does have a stronger story to it, but I wouldn't say that I necessarily was sucked in as much by the story as I was by the world, if that makes sense.
You're saying in
The
MM you like the world more than the story? Or in Ocarina of Time, the world is better than the world in MM?
both. So I think the world in OT is is better than the one in MM. Um, but also I didn't like when I was first playing OT. The story was secondary because I was like 7. I didn't fully understand
Yeah.
everything that was going on. So I was more like, when I see like the Zoras and the Gorons and like all these other, races, like the Gerudo, like going through Gerudo's hideout, like trying to be like stealthy and, seeing Desert Colossus for the first time, like, you see that giant statue and you're just like, holy cow. What, like walking into Fire Temple and hearing the chants that have obviously since been removed in the later
Yeah.
versions of the
Yeah.
game. For those of you who are stuck on 1.2, go listen to the 1.0 Fire Temple music if you haven't heard it. It's fantastic. Um, it's just the world that Nintendo built is in that game at least, and at that time, something that it was just so foreign but so interesting to me. And I think still like is still interesting to me today. It's not as foreign obviously because I played through OT numerous times, but um, that's kind of what drew me in over necessarily the story. And I this was also the first game where I experienced progression, really.
Mm. Yeah.
Because when you play Super Mario 64, it's just like, oh, I got a number that just grew by one. And I guess I
Yeah.
get to go to other levels too. Um, but it didn't feel the same as like, oh, I have this new item now. I can use it to go access other areas that I hadn't been able to reach before, and like
Yeah.
there's a whole different level of exploration and trying new things that you don't get in a lot of other games, I should say. I don't want to say any other games, because obviously like the other Zelda games in the franchise, you know, do similar things. And I'm sure there's other games that I haven't played that also do similar things. But as a game that I had played for the first time, that was kind of a first time experience for me.
I think also you got to think of it at the time, right? Like, I think at the time there there wasn't really a Zelda game like that as immersive as Ocarina of Time. Well, it being, of
Well, it was the
course,
first 3D Zelda game, right?
right, as what I was about to say is that
Yeah.
I think there's something about that that really connects you a little bit more. It seems more real, right? I guess we're 3D, or
Yeah. Yeah. Humans are three-dimensional.
humans are three-dimensional. Link is three-dimensional.
Yep.
But no, it seems more real. It seems more like our world, but it all at the same time, it is totally not our world in Hyrule. Um, I was gonna say this about MM. MM feels in every way to me like a sequel of anything, where
Hmm.
the producers say, "All right, let's do it again, but let's do it bigger and better."
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did that. Um, I think they made. I think they it's very MM is very twisty to me. It's the lore is terrifying. It's a very very dark game, but to me it just wasn't the same. I think part of it was that OOT was my first Zelda game, and so the first of anything, the second of anything is never going to feel exactly the same, and you
Right.
you get that with every pretty much every sequel that's out there.
Right.
Um, in very rare cases, sequels blow away the original, but
Yeah.
not often, right? And that's kind of what's happened with OOT and MM, and I think a lot of people who either maybe didn't grow up with OOT or don't have as strong of a connection with OOT see MM for what it is and are like, this is such a great game. And it is a great game. I agree with that. But I think it depends on your perspective, where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100% agree. It was a little weird for me when I first played MM. I was
I can't save.
like,
I can't just save like I did in OOT. I gotta find an owl
yeah,
statue. What the hell is this?
the owl statue. Yeah. But
Can't
I,
save
I
during
think the
first
weirdest thing
cycle.
for me going to MM was like the game looks very similar. Like they reused assets like all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a different story. But I think the thing that threw me off was OT felt like this epic, where it was like you go through all these dungeons to like beat the final boss in this epic fight. And Majora's Mask didn't give me that same
Mm.
vibe. It was like there were 4 dungeons, and like the final area, I guess, is like the trials, and then you fight this weird mask chicken running thing with lashing tentacles or something.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel the same.
Mm.
Um, and
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why I didn't like it as much. And like you said, it's Majora's Mask is a great game,
Mm.
but that that's I think most of the reason why I'm preferable to OOT is I experienced it first, and that kind of set the baseline for what I was looking for from Zelda games, especially ones that looked like OOT, and then that didn't deliver that same thing, which is probably good, right? You want the game to be different. Like you don't want to play OOT 2.0. I mean, I would, but you like it's probably not a good business move, right? To do OOT 2.0. Um, so yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, for sure. I want to shift gears a little bit. There are some other speedrunning questions that I can ask you, but
Sure.
I want to talk about coaching a little bit because I know that's been a big part of you in gaming and how you got into streaming. Maybe I don't know enough about it, which is why I want to talk to you about it.
Mhm.
So you, uh, first of all, you actually before we talk about coaching, tell me about what it was like to be on a team in college for League of Legends because
Yeah.
I love your bio on Twitch and it's like I was a mid laner at school and I just think that's the coolest thing. Like you were on a League of Legends team that played against other schools. Um, yeah, I mean, did it feel like being on a sports team?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
for sure. It was very much a us versus them mentality, like the thing I loved about Collegiate League was most of my friends that I made in college come from Collegiate League.
Cool.
Um, both on my team and on other teams that, when I moved from playing to coaching after I got out of college, we'd set up scrims with those teams and we had competitions. I remember one guy, I'm in Ohio, so I went to University of Miami, um, of Ohio, which is like southwest. It's like about an hour away from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And UC is also, they were also in the league scene around the same time. So we would see the UC guys at like lands and stuff pretty frequently. And one of the guys I played against, when I was playing mid lane, I would play against him like he was my direct lane opponent.
Right, right.
And then we both moved into coaching later, so I got to, we'd take our teams. One of the lands we went to, we ended up putting like a wager on like who would win. We'd gift like skins to each other or
Oh,
something
nice. That's
as
cool. Yeah.
kind of a friendly thing. But yeah, that's kind of where one of the best things about just collegiate league in general was that's where um,
Made a lot of
that's
friends.
how I met a lot of people, and
Mhm.
kind of where my friend base came from. So to kind of go back to what you were originally talking about, kind of how I got into collegiate league, I guess streaming as well. So I actually streamed League. My account was created in 2012. I don't really, for my Twitch account. I don't really
Wow.
remember how much I streamed like in those early couple years. But it was to stream like me playing.
Yeah.
So I would stream solo queue or it. I think probably like back in the day when I wasn't as good, I would play like normal games with friends, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where streaming started, was just playing League as like a hobby. And you'd have your one buddy in there on occasion. Otherwise, it was you just streaming to yourself. Um, but when I got to college, I had been playing League for probably 7 or 8 months. Um, because I went to college in 2011, fall of 2011, and I had been playing League since like halfway through senior year in high school. So I wasn't very good at the time. Um, but my first semester in college, I spent way too much time playing League and not enough time working on homework and
Hmm.
studying for tests.
Yeah.
And I walked out of that with a it was like barely a 2 GPA. It was not
Okay.
good. Like
Yeah.
as a high school student who finished with a 3.9 in
Wow.
high school, my parents were obviously not happy
Yeah, yeah.
that I was like barely, passing in college. Um, so I spent a lot of time playing League in the fall semester, and it got a lot better. I would say I did the same, but I put more emphasis on like making sure I did my homework, studied a decent amount for tests, because I was always the student in high school where I didn't have to study for hardly anything. Like I just paid attention in class, did the homework, and I got reasonably good grades on everything. It just kind of came naturally to me.
Yeah.
But the thing was, for when I was in college, I didn't know anybody, and I'm terrible at meeting people and like just striking up a conversation with people I don't know. Like, it just makes me terribly
Really?
uncomfortable. I hate it. Yeah. Like,
It
the
doesn't
reason
seem
why I'm
like,
able to do
yeah.
this with you is because, one, you're asking me questions, so I can just respond to those questions, and two, I know you from before this conversation. So the fact that I had been in your stream, interacted with you before, it helps me out a lot, because my big thing is I need to have common ground with somebody to feel like I want to talk to them. And it's hard to get common ground with somebody unless you talk to them. So I'm just in this big, you know, screwed if you do, screwed if you don't type thing.
It's so
With
weird because I don't see you like that. Like I look up to you in terms of how you address your stream and the way that you conduct yourself on stream. I see you as someone who I strive to be similar towards or similar
no,
as.
I
Um
I appreciate that, but I'd like you to elaborate in what way.
you're not boring at all. Like I feel like sometimes I just lack a sense of wittiness and like responsiveness. Like I don't know, you're very I don't know. You can take something, and I think really good streamers can take a little thing that someone says in chat or a little idea and just talk about it, right? And there are days when I'm better than others, but like this goes all the way back to like literally the first thing I ever said in this in like when we were talking today
Mhm.
is I doubt myself and probably too much. Um, but I think you do a really good job at striking up conversation, holding conversation, even if it's not really a conversation, even if it's just an idea or something that you're talking about in stream. But yeah, like I admire it, and that's why it surprises me that you're sometimes uncomfortable in situations. But it is different. Like I like socializing in real life is different than
For sure, yeah.
on stream. So let's talk about that. I know I kind of like I feel like it's important though. I know I kind of cut you off. We can go back to it, but like,
Sure.
why do you think it's so different? Because I like it's interesting how you're saying how you've met a lot of your friends from like from league competitions. I've met a lot of my friends from streaming. Um, so why is it easier to mingle, or I don't know if that's the right word,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah, more or
why
less.
is it easier to be interactive, um, online or on stream on Twitch than it is in person? Does it have to do with image, or does it have to do with uh?
I wouldn't say it has anything to do with image. Um, I think part of the reason is kind of like I said before, is finding a common ground with somebody. I have a very narrow interest pool.
Hmm,
Um,
okay.
in terms of a lot of stuff, just games, it, just general knowledge
You like
about.
sports? I mean, that's pretty. I feel
Yeah,
like that's a
but
pretty
I mean,
big.
sports is competition. I would expand games to say just competition in general. I actually really love competition, which is one of the reasons why I love speedrunning. It's
Mm,
it's the ultimate competition. It's you against everybody else that's running the category.
yeah,
Um, but you're also running against yourself. So sports is the same thing. You're always trying to be better than your opponent, but also the best that you can be, kind of like we were talking about at the beginning. Um, but what I wanted to say with regards to you know meeting other people, mingling with other people, is I I need to find myself, for me to succeed in that area. I need to find myself in a situation where I can express my interests and be interested in what's like either what another person is talking about, or what's happening around us, in order to build upon anything other than like surface level, like, hi, my name's Josh, like, what do you,
Yeah.
what do you do? Do you go to school? Like, what's your job? What does that job entail? Like, I can do a little bit of like, surface level BS, like, getting to know somebody, but until you get to know somebody's interests and you're also interested in those same things, it'll only really ever stay as like an acquaintance.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I've had a relatively hard time outside of outside of college, where you have these events set up where you can just go and meet people that like
Yeah.
to do the same thing that you like to do, um, to meet other friends. So like when I go to work, for example, um, there are other people that are in my profession, but work is work.
Yeah.
Like if everybody had infinite money and didn't have to work, most people wouldn't work. They would
No.
find other means of doing stuff that they enjoy. Um, so when I'm talking to my coworkers about like stuff that I like to do, it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, I played, you know, if I was to say something about Zelda, it'd be like, yeah, I played, Skyward Sword once with my nephew or something. It's like, okay, we can't really connect there. But I have like one of my favorite coworkers. His name's Jared. Um, I talk with him all the time because I do quality assurance and business analyst work for a software company,
Mhm.
and he does development work. So I talk to the customers, I get specifications for functionality that they want, I write it up, and then I send it to him to develop. And then when he's done with it, it comes back to me for testing. So I'm constantly like talking to him, like, hey, where are you with this? Like, why does this thing not work?
Yeah.
Um, so we find ourselves in meetings and whatnot, and we actually got on the topic of just talking about fantasy football one time, and it was like that's the kind of thing where it's like I like fantasy football, he likes fantasy football. We have something to talk about other than the surface level stuff,
Right.
and I think that's how you start to form like some bonds with people, where it's like you can always kind of go back and reference some of those things as a means to like express emotion, or just reach a little bit deeper into conversation, because once you find something you're interested in with that somebody else also likes, it's so much easier to get to know them, and kind of figure out what they like, what they're about, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier, like when you grow up with people, because
Hmm.
like we're talking about like elementary school through middle school, high school, like unless you moved, a lot of people for a good amount of time when you're
Right.
growing up, and like that relationship is kind of just inescapable because you've gotten to know someone for such a long time, and not everyone, but like if you tend to connect with a lot of people if you're doing the same thing for a lot of time. So like, school. I mean, automatically, if you're in school with someone, uh, like for 10 years,
Hmm.
you're probably going to have some kind of schema of that person, some kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
idea of who they are, and an idea of if you want to get to know them more. Then if you have school plus like you're on the baseball team with them, then you're gonna be friends, right?
Right.
Unless they suck, unless not
Yeah.
like at baseball, but unless they're just not a good person. And it depends, I mean, some people are more sociable and actively social than others,
Hmm.
more accepting and stuff. But it's trust me, like so for me, um, first of all, like after college, it's very very difficult to meet people, um,
Agreed.
and especially in the time that we're in COVID, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's
That does not
impossible,
help.
right?
Yeah.
Like, where are you gonna go and not have a mask on? And
Right.
um, it's so difficult in this time that we're living in to be social and to meet people.
Hmm.
Um, I think
Yeah,
like
it's all online
I think
nowadays.
dating apps are huge right now because it's like the only way to pretty much like unless you're going to a bar every once in a while or or unless you already have friends that you can go out with like
Exactly. Yeah.
and that's tough. Like you have to be lucky. Like I only have like Ryan is pretty much my only in real life friend that I've had, that I met when I was a kid and I still know.
Hmm.
Like it's I think it's important to be very very fortunate of that, and to recognize that like that's very rare to have a friend like that. But like he lives in DC now. He's here actually for Christmas, but like,
Oh, nice.
I we're not really gonna go out and like go clubbing or like go to a bar, like
Right. Yeah.
it's just it's not really like our thing. Like he'll go out sometimes when he's in DC. He's got some friends there from college who like are very uh like to go out and stuff, and so he tags along. But like
Sure.
to find the you know what I'm saying. It's difficult now.
Yeah.
Um
I gotcha.
so yeah, I think things change over time, and it's I kind of even forgot how we started talking about this, but
Yeah, we going down a rabbit hole.
kind of went off the rails. But I think it's good to talk about, to acknowledge. I mean, I think it's crazy that we're going into you know 2022 with another year of COVID.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
like I've been wanting to go see Spider-Man in theaters, and
Oh yeah.
like so uh yeah, I've been really wanting to, and I was gonna go with my dad's a big Marvel fan, so I was gonna go with him and
Okay.
Ryan, but we decided not to just because it's actually my dad who like really and because he's a doctor, and
Okay. Yeah,
he
makes
sees
sense.
so many patients with COVID that he's just freaked out by the packed theaters, and for good reason. Like I'm sure a lot of people are going home with COVID after seeing
Oh yeah, probably.
The Matrix or Spider-Man right now in these packed theaters with the Omicron
Hmm.
variant going around. Like the numbers are so high. It's a scary time, man. I mean, it's it's tough. I mean, like I'm fortunate enough to have a booster and not be as um, vulnerable as some other people, but my dad's telling me that he has nurses who are vaccinated and like going home because they got COVID because they're testing positive and they're fully
Yeah.
vaccinated.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's one of those things, right, where like if you're in the medical profession and you're seeing people that, might not be healthy, having those people around might not be the best idea.
yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
uh it's interesting, but yeah, it's kind of tough to circle back because I forget how I guess we're talking about meeting people,
yeah.
and how you're saying that you might have a tough time meeting people, but I uh I think that do you think that socially we're hard on ourselves? Like not just you and me, but like um maybe it depends on the kind of person. But like do you think that we have inherently a more negative view about how we interact with people? Because like I don't know. I think probably I'm harsh on myself and how I see myself as a streamer. Um and yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
When you say hard on yourself, like can you give me an example? Like in what way?
Um like sometimes I don't feel confident in my ability to articulate ideas or respond to chat um in a unique in an articulate manner.
Hmm.
um I don't know, maybe I'm just looking for things to beat myself up over.
Maybe. I mean, I think with regards to like just interacting with chat especially, um like I think the thing you have to remember, and this is probably true for other people too, is um I like you don't really want to pander necessarily to the people that are watching, and just be yourself,
Yeah.
because
Mm.
ultimately, the version of yourself that you want to be or you strive to be is going to be the best version of you that is going to keep people watching, and it's
Yeah.
going to be the thing that people come back to see. So like when I see Cabbage like jump in my stream like every time I go live, even if it's just for like a good luck while doing like doing a run of himself of his own, it's like he's coming to my stream because he appreciates me being myself, trying to play the game that I love. So it's, if I'm trying to be somebody I'm not, which is like, I know I'm not the best OT player, so like I don't have a huge ego. I expect a lot from myself, but that's a different, a different thing. Um, but when I see people like jump in chat that are regulars, um, they're there because they like what I'm doing, or what their favorite streamer is doing. Um, but they also like that they're being authentic, and if they have problems with whatever, either it be in stream, out of stream, like I'm a big rager when I am playing bad in speedruns, like they're there for the entire experience, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Like
No.
I think you're beating yourself up a little bit
I
too
mean,
much over it, but
yeah. I mean, I have a history of doing that with myself with a lot of different things. So, that's totally fair. Um, yeah. Is there anything else about like speedrunning that we kind of missed? So what about what are your goals right now? And then what you want to get a sub 19 to defeat Ganon? Is that what you're going for?
yes. Yep.
You want to
Sub 19 defeat Ganon.
get N64 world record?
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. And it's definitely possible. Like I think my summa best is like 1837 or something.
Yeah,
So like I have like 20 seconds to spare. I just need to stop
that's
sucking
totally
and
doable
yeah,
because
like
like my
actually
yeah
clutch out a run. But I mean it's hard, right? Because especially for the number of runs that I put in, buffering every hard trick, and I put in like, I don't know, maybe 250, 2 to 250 runs of like unbuffered everything. I've only gotten to the end a couple times, which is, it feels like I'm playing low percent again, to be honest. But it's also what I need to do in order to reach my goal. So I kind of have to deal with it, right?
yeah.
Um, but in terms of goal, yeah, like definitely 100% or sub 19, just beating the 1859 that Lazutz has, um, is the number one priority. I might take a pit stop at low percent again and just like take a
Try to improve
pass
it.
at basically doing better than I did previously, which is like I think the hardest. I'll get back to that in a second. I think the hardest part about switching categories halfway through was I knew how to do everything, but I didn't know how to do the fastest version of everything. So now I feel like I need to go back and like improve upon that time, which I guess is, it's part of the appeal to keep playing. Um, but so I think I might do that. I also I also just want to learn uh Zora's Domain Gim and do like dank percent for like a hot second, because I think that would be funny. It wouldn't it wouldn't be a good time. But I think it would be fun to just like learn how to do it and see if I could get it a few times. Um, and then I think the next big category I'm gonna do is Ganonless.
Okay,
Um,
so
just
that's yeah
because there's so much you can do in Zelda, and defeat Ganon's like this much.
yeah
and I feel like Ganonless is like this much. So we're like kind of inching our way towards like
Hundo.
the whole spectrum of everything
Yeah.
that you can do. So I think that's probably a good start. It'll also be pretty cool, like just leaving the forest and
Yeah.
experiencing other portions of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I think those are probably the immediate things. I have no idea what my goal time for Ganonless is going to be, because there's going to be so many new things with that run that I'm going to be terrible at first. Um, so it's going to be one of those play it by ear and see how far we can get. Um, but I think in the short term, it's definitely the sub 1859 and not getting completely sucked into Escape from Tarkov like I've been the last 5 of the last 6 days.
Yeah, I don't know much about Ganonless. I don't really know what the route is. So it's a credits warp at the end?
Yeah, it's a Fire Temple credits warp.
Okay.
It's like a 40, it's like a 30, low 30-minute run, at least if you're like record pace. But yeah,
Record is like 32, I think, by Lazoob's
I think
right?
it's like 30, 32. Yes. But it's from what I understand, I haven't like gone through to like figure out what the route is. I just know like it's a lot more technical than what Defeat Ganon is. So I'm not going to be like, especially at first, I'm not going to be expecting the same level of competency
Yeah.
run to run to run that I am that I do currently on Defeat Ganon, when I switch to Ganonless. But that's something that like if there's a category that's going to make me better at the game and not just better at the category, I think Ganonless will do it, because there's like some core stuff in there that can be used on so many different categories, like bomb hessing that I haven't ever done. That's just going to help translate over into other categories that I might want to run in the future. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of tricks like getting shoes early, either like spirit shoes
mm-hmm.
or the ocarina dive. Those kind of things are translate well to a bunch of different categories.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
nice to learn those tricks. Like when I was doing like GSR was a good category for me to learn because it taught me a lot of different tricks that I think I could potentially do in a lot of different categories. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. It'll be like, I think that's still a ways off, because like I think my DGPB is like 1935 or something. I'm still like 36 seconds off the time I want to get. Um, it's just that my sum of best is like, a minute from my PB right now. So I could PB any run that like finishes half decent, but it's about PBing with the run that's like actually good at this point for me. So we'll see. It's going to be probably a lot more attempts, but I feel like any given run, I can make it happen.
I believe.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Um, what are you doing for Christmas?
Christmas.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's the 24th. Tomorrow, I'm
Is it
meeting my
crazy?
brother.
Tomorrow's
It,
Christmas
it
Eve.
it is. Yeah.
I'm so happy. It's
Um,
holidays.
it's kind of snuck up on us this year. I feel like
Oh
it's a
yeah,
little weird.
100%.
Um,
Hundo,
but yeah, I'm
Master.
meeting my brother at my parents' place, and then we're gonna drive up to my grandparents, and we're gonna spend the night there and have Christmas with my grandparents.
It's
So
awesome.
it'll be good.
Yeah.
And my parents will be there as well. So
Anything else that you want to talk about?
um
We touched on coaching a little bit. Do you want to like how I guess we could talk about like um how does one become a League of Legends coach?
yeah, so I can kind of talk about that. So um I played, so it actually started with uh even to get into league, like to get in um to the collegiate scene. we didn't have a team. Like our school did not have a team when I was
Oh,
there.
okay.
So I had a roommate, or not a roommate, I'm sorry. I had a classmate who later became my roommate, like a year later, who played StarCraft at the time, and he was on, or had, I don't remember if I want to say he had started the StarCraft team at my school. And they competed through an organization called CSL, which is Collegiate Star League, and they would play against other colleges. And he was kind of showing me, because we were both in engineering at school, and that's how I met him. And he was showing me like, hey, you can, we play against these other schools, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm a Zerg main, and he was like showing me StarCraft, and I was like, yeah, I don't understand any of this stuff, and you're clicking really fast, but it looks really cool. And he, I talked about League, and he's like, yeah, I played like League a little bit, but not a whole lot. But he was the one who eventually mentioned like, hey, like Collegiate Star League is going to support League of Legends as like one of their titles that they run leagues for this upcoming year. Like, if you want to get a team together, you can do that. And I was like, oh, really? That's really interesting. So I ended up just like posting. We had a generic like gaming club
Mm-hmm.
Facebook page at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, does anybody want to like play and like represent Miami in like this collegiate like tournament thing that they're gonna have. And so that's kind of how it started. Was we had some interest. We had like just some generic tryouts um, that were run to see like who's the best 5 players that we can field from those that were interested. And we found 5. We actually had a couple extra like for backfills and stuff, but um, yeah, and it was super fun. That's where I met um, a bunch of my like first friends going into college. And from there it kind of only grew. We had I ended up playing that year, and then the two the year after that, and the semester after that, because I graduated in 3.5 years. So
Damn.
well, it it sounds great, but I didn't have to take any of the gen ed courses, so it
Oh,
was like,
what
yeah,
was your
it was super
degree?
nice. Software engineering.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it was because my grades were good in high school. I qualified for the honors program, and then the honors program allows you to skip the gen ed courses at Miami,
That's
or at least
nice.
it did. So
That's real
yeah, I
nice.
didn't have to take any of that, which was really good. Um, which is why I just moved straight to Calc 2 and got a D in that class for semester. So, but that aside, we had you know when when I got out of school, there was like a year that went by where things were like, kind of same old, where I just wasn't on the team anymore. I wasn't associated with them anymore. And I like really missed the competition aspect.
Yeah.
Um, and it was around that same time where we had a couple of other individuals, um, one of which who now actually worked for Blizzard, and then went on now works for Riot Games, um, for the I think she's on doing Valorant stuff. Um, and she and a couple other people wanted to start a esports program at the school, and like basically have the university um support the teams, and like basically like provide funding for stuff like if we traveled to like lands, or if we want like for jerseys to like represent the school and stuff like that. And eventually they pitched it to faculty, and they ended up getting us an arena, like a gaming arena. It's just basically like a room in the library, with like a bunch of gaming PCs set up along the walls, where we would have, I think we had League, Hearthstone, and Overwatch, I think, were the first 3 games that the university supported. And when those came about, I was like, hey, I kind of been following with those guys because I was friends with them, and I was like, hey, if you guys need somebody to like coach, because I knew I couldn't play,
Yeah.
I'm not actively enrolled in the school. I was like, if you need somebody to coach, like, I played on the team for 3 years and was one of the better players there at the time. Like, and I'm still actively playing the game a lot. Like, hit me up, and they're like, yeah, we'll see what we can do. And then I got reached out from um, the department head. That we had like an overarching department that was overseeing the program,
Mm-hmm.
and that I had actually graduated through that department with my minor, which was in digital game studies. And we went, we talked, or I talked to them, and they did like a little interview thing, and it went well, and ended up being the coach at Miami for a couple years. Um, and yeah, that's kind of where it took off. We had I coached them for a year, went into second year. I had an assistant coach both years. One of them was my good friend Matt. Sometimes you'll see him in my chat, Cubby. He actually lived with me for a while too, but he's back in Chicago now. Who did student coaching with me at the time, and then the second year I was there, I had another guy named Hatham who did student coaching with me. And after that second year, um, they decided that they were going to do student coaching. So I
Yeah.
couldn't coach, obviously, at that
Right.
point. So I was like, okay. And they actually basically promoted Hatham, who was my student coach, like on site, because I was remote, right? Um, Promoted him to head coach, and then I was out at the time. Um, so once I was out, I was like, I'm still interested. Like, I've been in the scene for 2 years now. Like, I've really enjoyed collegiate. I ended up going to talking to another friend I had met through Miami. His name was Zach. He was a really good league player. He was probably the best league player that we had come through the program at any point. He ended up transferring from Miami to Ohio State. So I was like, yo, Zach, like, I know you guys have a team. You guys don't have a program or anything. If you guys feel like you want, like, want third party to like watch over VODs or like give you feedback on gameplay or something like that, be like, yeah, I'm down to, kind of go through and watch those with you guys. And we did that a few times, and they were like, yeah, we'd like to have you like watch our practices and like kind of facilitate pick ban and stuff like that. Um, so I ended up doing that for a year with Ohio State, and that was that was a lot of fun. Like those guys were probably the best 5 players that I had coached up until that point. And then the last year that I coached, um, Zach had left, so I didn't really have an in anymore necessarily at the school. But I did get brought back because Ohio State actually was starting to make a program that same year, and they were the same way. They wanted student coaches.
Mm.
So again, I was like, okay, well, I should probably leave now while I'm, before the program gets made. Um, but it turned out that it got delayed, and when it got delayed, they were like, yeah, we have this like manager that's basically coaching us, but he doesn't know anything about the game. So they brought me back, and I coached. I coached for another year, and that was the last year that program had, offsite, uh, non-student coaches. So that's kind of my trilogy or quad quadrilogy, whatever, of coaching. I coached for 4 years, but it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of cool guys, a lot of good players, and it was just the competition that I really liked about it. Like, you don't realize it until you don't have it anymore. Um, but being a part of a team and pushing pushing yourself to higher levels of play to be the best that you can be, and be ultimately better than all the other teams, um, is really interesting, and I find it really exhilarating. It's why I like playing basically anything competitive, any sports. Why I like speedrunning. Um, why I coach League and played League for so long. It's all in there.
Wow. Well, damn.
Sorry, that was like the whole history of.
No, that was amazing. It probably felt good to just talk about.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it does.
but coaching is, I coach baseball, and I'm really looking forward to the spring. Um, it's just such a great way to stay in something that you love when you're done playing.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and it's something that it's a different kind of pride when you're doing it. But like if you kind of know you're good at it, and that's why you're doing it because you want to help people,
Hmm.
and so it's so rewarding to teach.
It
Um,
really is. That dude, that was one of my favorite things about coaching was, we talk about you take especially with like teams of players and not just like individuals. Um, Getting 5 people on the same page about what to do in a game where they need to make decisions quickly is really difficult.
yeah,
But when you practice it and you fail a bunch of times at it, and you talk about it after all these instances of failing, and then you see it happen for the first time, you're just like, let's fucking go. It's so rewarding. It feels so good because
yeah,
your work, your hard work's paying off towards making your team better and getting them to understand teamwork and understand that, especially in games that are not just 1v1 or 2v2, that everybody needs to be communicating and working together towards the same goal. So yeah, that was by far my favorite part, was just like seeing that first instance of something you've been practicing for a really long time work,
yeah.
and just feeling like listening in to the comms and like listening to the guys get hyped about making like a game-winning play, or you know realizing that, like, hey, we finally did this thing that's been messing us up for so long. um but yeah, it just, no feeling beats it outside of playing, of course. I wish I would have been around longer to keep playing. um I probably would have been beat out for the job, but that's just
Hey,
something to kind of to push you further. But
you
yeah,
can
it's
you
kind of
can
how it
queue with
goes.
me sometime. I would love that. I just made a new account. I can't, I'm not level 10 yet, so I can't do draft pick, but
Okay.
I played a lot in like season 3, season 4.
Hmm.
So it's been, you know, 6 years, but I'm trying to get back into it a little bit. So yeah, we
Okay.
should definitely play it sometime. Is there a way that you can like would you still coach if you could? Like is there a way that you can keep doing that? Because you seem pretty enthusiastic about it.
um so yes, there is an amateur scene. um the amateur scene's pretty competitive, um in terms of the skill of players that are there, as well as, at this point, the skill of, and like the longevity of some of the coaching talent that's been in the scene.
Right.
um I think, I'm the type of person that thrives when I've been given direct instruction. I'm not very good when I'm on my feet, when I'm trying to like think up on my feet, or like come up with like creative solutions to like do something. Um and so when I was doing coaching at the collegiate level, everything was like, let's try this, let's try that, I've seen this somewhere, let's try this. And some of it clicked, some of it didn't. And I'm glad I did it, right? Because you have to try something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and this might just be there's a word for this, I don't know what the word is offhand. I feel like everybody knows, like everybody in that space knows more than I do. um so it's one of those things where, if I was to go back in and try to do that, I would have to start at a level lower than I think I'm willing to
Yeah, I know what you mean.
start, because I would have to develop my coaching style and like do the like develop some of the strategies by which I coach, not necessarily the strategies which I'm preaching to players to utilize in game, but like figure out like how to develop drills and how to incentivize players to play with each other and communicate with each other, that kind of thing. It's a little bit different of a mindset, and I think at this point I've been a little too removed from I've been removed from the scene for too long to come back and not expect to coach players that are below the caliber with which I was coaching at Ohio
Yeah.
State or at Miami, which I wouldn't want to do because it's not it's let me put it this way. It's frustrating as a coach when you have to focus on individual play rather than team play as a means of improving. So if like the phrase is like, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link, which is I feel like pretty incredibly true in League, where if you have a player that's just not very good, like individually, they struggle very much with certain concepts, or they're not as mechanically gifted as the competition they're playing against, they're going to lose most games for you. And at that point, you're either playing, you know, a 4v5 or you're playing a 4v6 because they're just contributing gold to the other team.
Feeding.
So it's tricky in that sense, and that's not a route I want to go down, because I don't want to focus on necessarily improving as an individual, which everybody can do. But I want to focus on how can you take 5 players who are gifted enough and intelligent enough to improve their own play on their own accord with, you know, some small things, you know, here and there that I can provide input on, but that need somebody to guide them towards succeeding with others and developing strategies with others that allow them advantages in a game like League. And you really don't get that with players that are, you know, below the top 1%
Yeah.
of the player base. So
I think we already kind of covered it, but I would ask, like, just to wrap up, is there any we call this mind of the streamer, and I think we talked a lot about. I think we got into the mind of JDaddy really well tonight.
yeah, we did.
For sure. Um, advice. Is there any advice that you'd give? And again, I think we already kind of brushed on it when you were talking to me about it. But advice you would give to maybe a streamer who is lacking confidence, or a streamer who a new streamer, or someone who wants to start speedrunning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any advice?
Yeah. The first thing about streaming for me is like do it because you like it, not because you want other people to watch it.
That's good.
As somebody who's been streaming for a long time, to generally speaking single digits for 95% of the time, even, you know, for a large portion of that time streaming to myself, I streamed because I, one, enjoyed playing the game I was playing and talking about the game I was playing, but two, I had like, generally speaking, I had a desire to like record what I was doing for like just like either like cool plays, or
Right.
if I wanted to take footage and like show it to another player for educational purposes, like when I was doing coaching. But you know, that secondary thing, you know, you don't have to necessarily have. You can obviously record locally or whatever. But I always used it as, you know, if I enjoy doing what I'm doing and I enjoy talking about what I'm talking about, then anybody who comes by and actually wants to watch that content will come and stay.
Yeah.
You know, if they pop in and they watch for 30 seconds and then leave, it's fine. They're not interested. and I
Right.
probably wouldn't be interested talking to them either.
Right.
And that's going to happen for 90% or more of people that come into any given stream. They're not
Yeah.
going to be necessarily interested. And I'm not trying to be a huge like personality or entertainer. I'm just being myself. Like I'm just a dude who loves playing video games and likes winning, being better than my opponent.
Yeah.
So yeah, streaming it first and foremost should be about fun. If you're not having fun doing it, like don't bother. Honestly, it's taxing in a weird kind of way because it's not like exhausting. It's just like it's mentally draining if you're focusing on your viewer count,
Mm.
or the lack of people talking in chat. And I'm guilty of that too. Like
Yeah.
if I've been streaming for like 3 or 4 hours and I notice that like chat's been dead for like an hour, hour and a half, I I generally don't want to stream as much anymore as I would have back in the day
Yeah.
because speedrunning is much more of a grind than playing League where like every game is different. Every speedrun is different, but it's also exactly the same, or you're trying to make it
Yeah.
exactly the same. So, um, it's a little harder, I think, from a speedrunning perspective, um, to stream. But again, as long as you enjoy it, I think that's priority number one. Like if you're not having fun with it, find another means to either enjoy the game that you're playing, switch games, um, you know, do something with friends, like that kind of thing, or just don't stream, don't bother with it. It's not something you have to do.
Yeah.
It's something you should want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah,
All
that's
right.
my advice.
I love it. Yeah, what was that you said? Do it what was the first thing you said? Do it because you like to, not because you want people to watch you.
Yeah,
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 I think that's really good.
yep.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up. Is there anyone in chat who also I want to thank everyone who was here for this. Murph, Cabbage, Sweat, um, Lake, Nova, T1. Also, I need to read. Is there an easy way to give someone their points back? Because T1 redeemed Dinosaur Onesie for 5,000 points, and I wasn't about to do that
Yeah,
on.
you should be able to go to your viewer rewards on your dashboard, and it'll be like a queue, and you can just hit the X and refund the points.
Let me see. But if anyone, does anyone in chat have a question that they want JDaddy to answer? We talked about a lot of stuff tonight, but anything else that you guys want to ask JDaddy? All right. Career dashboard. I'm sorry, T1. Viewer rewards.
Lake.
What did he say? Why are you such a cutie?
Yeah. That's completely subjective, Lake. I can't answer that.
I don't think it is. I think we all know.
Oh god.
Rewards.
Murph, I have the question Murph asked was what games other than OOT have I run or considered running?
That's a good one.
I haven't run any other games actually. OOT was the first game that I've speedrun. It's actually really funny when I first like got interested in like OT speedrunning, I was doing like the ultimate casual thing you can do, which is play the game how you want to play it as quickly as possible. Not under the the guidelines of any category per se. So what I was doing was I actually really enjoy playing Hundo. And but before I was doing speedrunning, I had no idea how to do any of the glitches. So I would do casual, 100% glitchless, in like literally just like in order, like intended route, I think is what the language I used was. Um, and I did that a few times, and it's fun to do, but it's really hard to do it in one sitting because it was taking me like 10 hours to do it. So I would do those runs for for 10 hours, and I'd just be like dead tired afterwards, and like you get like halfway through and just be like, yeah, it'd be nice to take like an hour to just like go do something else for a bit and come back. But so typically I would end up like splitting it up into two streams, but I was like, it's not really conducive for a speed run. So that's when I was like, I should just learn like a short category to like maybe dip my toes in for like learning glitches and stuff like that, which is kind of how I started out with Defeat Ganon. Um, but yeah, I haven't played uh I haven't played with intention to run any other game, although I did somewhat recently at like 5 a.m. in the morning run um Mario Party 3 Dizzy Dingies Course 1.
What?
I attempted world record for that and got within 2 frames, which is pretty good.
Can we
So,
talk about how good I am at what's the mini game that I just mash?
uh,
What's it
it's
called? It's
I know which one you're talking about.
Three
I
Door
just can't remember the
Monty.
name of
Three
it.
Door Monty.
Three Door Monty, yes. I'm convinced you're cheating.
Oh yeah?
He's okay. So for those who don't know, Three Door Monty is it's a game of Mario Party where you've got Toad, Goomba, and Boo, and they all go into 3 different doors labeled with a button A, B, or Z. And there's a sign that pops up in the middle that just displays the picture of one of the characters, and you have to press the button of the door that they went in. And Thunder won that minigame twice in the game that we played a while ago. He did a video on it, which was really good. You should go watch it.
For sure.
Um, and he may or may not have gotten the answer correct both times in under a tenth of a second, which is garbage.
Haven't you been called out on stream though for cheating in Mario Party? Aren't you
Yeah,
a
but
notorious
that's
cheater?
I'm a notorious cheater to my good buddy Big Logs, who I just call Logs, because his last name is Logston, um, because he's really bad at N64 games, and he came over to my house one time because he had a powerlifting meet in Columbus,
Hmm.
and we played some N64 games, and I was just killing him at everything because I played N60 like to give you context, I had N64 like maybe a year after it was released or something, and then I didn't get another console until like 2000, I think it was like 6 or 7, well, like 3 years after the GameCube was released. So like that's all I had to play was N64 games. So I just became relatively proficient because I loved playing games and I only had 30 minutes to play. For years and years, and I only had an N64 to jam on. So we just played some Smash Brothers and played some Mario Party and some Mario Kart and beat up some noobs.
Murph asks, what are some speedrunners you look up to the most?
You can go first if you want, unless you need a
Um,
second.
Let me think about that. Speedrunners I look up to. Um, I look up to Laz, because he's been doing it for so long and just his sheer talent. Also getting to know him as more than just a speedrunner has been really nice. Doing this with him was awesome. Um, this this show is, or this podcast, whatever it is, interview, whatever you want to call it, has allowed me to get to know a lot of people in a really good way. It's been really, really nice and a really just great thing to share communities and to get to know people more beyond just speedrunning. But yeah, I look up to Laws. I look up to the people who I like originally watched like back in 2014, 2015 when I first took a interest in speedrunning. So like uh, Narcissa and Skater. Those were I was on Twitch at the time, but like I didn't chat at all. Like I just lurked. I was just a lurker. And I watched them do speedruns of Ocarina of Time. Like I was there with the for the 1810 with like 10,000 people in Twitch in the in that stream.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of other. I'm like blanking right now. I look up to my friends, honestly. Like I was saying, I look up to you. Like it's just such a great community. Um, I look up to everyone who is actively trying to do better, and not only better themselves in terms of their time, but in terms of just being a creator and a I think everyone is trying to better themselves as a person when they're streaming. People do it for different reasons, but I think the people who I identify with and the people who I like and I'm friends with are all trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's something that's really important, something that I value in people. And yeah, um, I I really looked up to Richard for a while for his dedication, how many runs he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Weather's someone who I really looked up to or do look up to. But I think my interest, as I was saying, like I guess I said looked because I've I've become a speedrunner, and so I don't really idolize as much as I used to. Whereas now I look up to people who are most of those people are just now my friends, and so I look up to them a very different way, in the way that I kind of said before, and that we're all trying to become better. And yeah, that's hopefully that answers the question well.
Yeah, I think I actually think you made a really good point there at the end. Um, because for me, there's in terms of how do I guess I'll jump back to that here in a second. For me, the speedrunners I look up to the most. Um, I guess probably when I first got into speedrunning, um, Clint Stevens. I think because I he was always like an underdog story, right? He was like always so far behind ZFG and always got so much shit for being second place. But also like, and this kind of rolls into the second person I'm gonna say. He's a really good entertainer while also just kind of like I said, we've said this like a couple times already now, like just being he's a person that I think just is himself, but is also very entertaining in the process. So I think for that reason, like he's a very good player. At least he was. I don't know how good he would be at OT anymore. He's still good at Mario. Um, but the other person was, and this is like despite his history, is R White Goose, who runs GoldenEye, or did run GoldenEye at the time. I know he still does some casual runs here and there, but doesn't stream much or do many runs too much anymore. But I really liked him as well because he was always very um, candid with his viewers, and was just like he's like a really likable guy who was like kind of like a grind mindset. Like I mean, GoldenEye is like every level's like a minute long. Like you're resetting on the smallest mistakes type thing. So like you kind of have to have the grind mindset for that kind of a game. And I had never played GoldenEye. Like it's just completely random, but I liked the guy's personality, and I liked that these people are being themselves when they stream, and they're just trying to be better. So those two were my answers, but I like the point that you brought up, which is like nowadays, I wouldn't say I necessarily have anybody that I look up to, because those people that I would look up to, I consider peers or friends. So uh, I guess from a looking up to perspective, there are people that I'm like, yeah, that player is really good. Like I think I don't watch much Mario 64, but some of the top runners on Mario 64, ridiculous. Kano, um, Suigi,
Ouija.
um, Ouija, yeah. Just a bunch of those guys are just insanely good. And I look up to them for the dedication that they put into their craft and getting better. and all the struggle that it took to do that. But I'm also not, I don't run those games, so it's harder to have appreciation for those. So I guess from an OOT perspective, I think I just kind of have to say this because it's, this is the person who I've been basically competing against, even though I'm not directly competing against them as laws. Just because, like, of the 2 categories I've run, yeah, I think of the 2 categories I've run, he's had, well, he didn't have it in low percent, but of Defeat Ganon, both on English and on Japanese on N64, he had the record time for both of them. I beat one of them, trying to beat the other, and he's got the other, like, he's got the best time overall too. So it's like he's got the trifecta. I'm trying to take away pieces of the Triforce from Lazuch.
Yeah, he's crazy. But it's interesting. I didn't say everyone. Like Lake is another person who I really look up to. But at the same time, like I met Lake like in real life, and we're just buddies. Like he's not someone who I like necessarily put on a pedestal. But like you find a balance, I think, especially when you're in the community, right? When you're a speedrunner and you make friends with everyone, like through like Mind of the Streamer and through Twitch, like I got pretty close to Weather. Like there was a period of time when I was talking to Richard for like a really long time. But and with you go separate ways for whatever reason. But yeah, like I look up to so many people. Like I look up to pretty much everyone in the community.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's kind of weird. I had mentioned my buddy Zach, who got me into Ohio State for coaching. He was actually he's one of the few players that I coached that I looked up to as a coach. Like, sorry, I said that wrong. As a coach, I looked up to him even though he was playing for me.
I've had that experience too. No, that does make sense. Like I've had that experience with like there are players that I've had while coaching baseball who I'm like, that's
this guy's really good.
Like I'm gonna
he's got good work ethic.
Like I think of someone in particular who like I made captain because I just admired like how they carried themselves and how they carried the team so much.
Yep.
And
exactly.
That's one of the other beauties of coaching is seeing that in players and really being able to help them and guide them like that. No, Murph, unless JDaddy has to go, I mean, we are wrapping up, but unless JDaddy has to go right now, we can handle a couple more questions.
I'm good.
What is your favorite OOT item and dungeon? I've been asked that before, and it's a tough question. I honestly love the Deku Stick. Because it's so OP.
Deku Stick is your choice?
Deku Stick is my choice. Because it's so practical and like it does so much damage, and you can use it to burn things. You can get ISG. It's just.
Are you saying that for speedrun purposes? Or are you saying that from like a casual perspective? Because
more from a speedrunning perspective.
Okay. Because I read the question as like, what's your favorite OOT item that like, just like thematically or like has interesting uses or something like that, which I guess kind of fits into speedrunning a little bit. But I was gonna take it like the casual perspective.
Well, you know what?
To me, Deku Sticks is like saying Deku Nuts is your favorite item. It's like that's the item as a casual that you get, you use one time, and then you forget you have them.
Maybe.
I think my favorite OT item is probably Din's Fire. Just because of the cool animation and the fact that you use it in very specific locations with like scenic, like, oh shit, this is a room where I finally get to use Din's Fire. Like the room in Shadow Temple where the wood is like the spike wood's like closing in on you.
Yeah.
It's like the first time I entered that room, I had no idea what to do, and I was like, oh, Din's Fire, we can use it here.
We got this.
And it actually worked. but yeah, I think like there's cases for a lot of the items. I think the long shot's really cool. I think the bow and arrow is really cool when you first get it. Like
Mm,
you had this piddly slingshot, now you got this like bow that you just feel like great using.
yeah.
Yeah, I think OOT's got like a good number of like satisfying items to use, which I think contributes to the success and like feel like how it feels to have and use the items overall.
Dungeon?
If we're talking about speedrunning, the Deku Tree is the worst dungeon in the series. Oh yeah, dungeon.
I guess Spirit. Spirit's pretty cool.
Spirit's
Fire
pretty
fire
good.
is cool. Not
See,
water.
I, I think I'm a little bit biased because I tend to judge the temples less on their like actual layout or like puzzles than I do the environment and like the feeling that you get when you're inside, which is why I would probably say forest. Um,
A lot of
forest
people would
is
say forest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think forest is one of those temples where it's like you enter for the first time and it's just like it kind of gives you the creeps a little bit. The music sets like a kind of an uneasy vibe. Um, and you're in this area where you basically don't have any items to use until you have the hook shot, but you have your hook shot, your sword, your shield as a casual at least, and what like nuts bombs. That's like it. So like you haven't fleshed out your inventory to feel like safe. Um, and it's not like it's linear, but it's not linear. It requires like some backtracking. You have to like turn the corridor and such. Um,
Yeah, it's
and
true.
I think thematically it's really cool where you have to go like around to catch all the pose. And they're like, I guess in a way they're kind of like the mini bosses of the
Yeah, there
temple.
isn't
There's like the
really.
Stalfos that guards the bow, but
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't really have a mini boss, but it's got like a like every I guess every temple has kind of like a story to it. Like the pose and forest temple,
mm-hmm,
fire temples, the Gorons,
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, Water
Um,
Temple is just like about, you know, I don't know, about getting lost.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think all the temples are very good overall. I wouldn't say that there's a bad temple in the set.
It's OT. Come on.
It's OOT, yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right. I think that's good.
yeah,
So do we want to
thank you for
rate?
having me on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, dude. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah.
Um would you make an OOT runner tier list if I paid you $5?
Um, it depends. Do I have to post it somewhere?
That's yeah, that's
And
the ultimate question.
and also, can you give me a list of runners to put on the tier list because there's so many runners.
You have to post it.
Okay, $5. You might have to up that a little bit, but
Hey
welcome,
P-Man,
P-Man.
we're
You're gonna
just
have to catch
ending.
the VOD, buddy.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun though. Yeah, dude, that was awesome. All right, so I think we'll just end stream. I don't think I'm gonna raid somebody. But thank you everyone for watching. That was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do this again. Um, and yeah, feel free to let me know who you would like to see on the show. JDaddy was an outstanding guest, and
Thank you. And
yeah,
you were a fantastic host
thank you. Merry Christmas,
with a very
everyone.
cool Santa hat.
I mine's the only thing that's better about mine is the bell. But you got,
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh, that's amazing.
yeah, I got the bell. You got the puff though, the big.
I was wondering what that ringing was when you adjusted your headset earlier.
Yep, it's the bell.
Nice.
But yeah. All right. Hey, Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm so
Yep.
excited for the holidays and everything. So yeah. All right. See you guys.